Aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Paradise Property Podcast for August 2024, where we talk about all things living in Hawaii, moving to Hawaii, and most importantly, Hawaii real estate, and in particular, Oahu Real Estate, which is where I'm located, and Big Island Real Estate, where my friend Guy LaGuire is located. The goal is to help educate, inspire, and entertain consumers and realtors, allows you to make better, more informed decisions. I'll put links in the description below to some of the information we talk about, as well as more additional information, so make sure to check that out. You can find me, Scott Startsman, on the web at hiestates.com, or you can search for me on YouTube at Scott Startsman. I'd like to welcome my good friend, Guy LaGuire, who hails from the Big Island. Guy is the host of the Papa Guy podcast. You can find and listen to Guy on his podcast by going to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube at Papa Guy Podcast. Welcome, Guy.
Aloha, Scott. Good to see you.
Yeah, you
Great
as
to
well.
great to be back on and discussing real estate.
Round two.
Round two.
How things been for you on the Big Island?
Well, things are good. Just kind of looking outside now. It looks like we might get a little rain in Waikoloa today, which doesn't happen very often, but that's fine. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm exercising a lot. I told you I've been swimming in the pool, and I've hit the 2-month mark from going from nowhere to being able to swim like a mile and a half. Never in my life have I been able to do that. So I'm feeling great. Physically, obviously the benefits, but also mentally. I just feel like every time I get out of the pool, that everything's good with the world. So feeling good.
So you started swimming how long ago?
Well, here's the thing. Over the years I've lived here in Hawaii, 36 years now, I have tried a dozen times at least to learn how to swim. Determined. Never got very far. I could go up and down the pool 5, 6, 7 lengths and I just stop, out of breath. Whatever, bad technique, I don't know. For some reason, this time around, just shortly after my birthday, I got started and just kept going, used some fins, a few tips from people. But yeah, I just realized that I had to stick to it. And so that's kind of my personal thing now. It's my huge goal for me. When basically, ever I got in the water, I would avoid drowning, even in a 2-foot bathtub. So it's great.
Before?
I'm sorry?
Did you not swim before?
No, I mean, I splashed around the water, but if you wanted me to swim out to, say, a buoy or something like that was 50 yards offshore, I wouldn't do it. Yeah, so it's really been the last 2 months when I've broken the floodgates, so to speak. Anyways.
Now you're up to a mile?
Yeah, I can swim a mile and a little bit more, and then usually I rest and I do a couple 500 splits, so I end up doing almost 3,000 yards in a swim session.
That's good.
It's great for me.
You got the Olympics to channel your inner
Yeah,
drive.
yeah, and now I realize how slow I am, but hey, I'm avoiding drowning much better than I used to. So.
Nice. So do you do that? Do you have a routine? You do that in the mornings, or?
It depends on my schedule. I can do it early in the morning. I can do it later in the day. Just depends. Yeah. So, how about you? What's your morning routine these days?
I mean, I try to work out in the mornings. The mornings where I have the energy, and it sets the table for the rest of the day for me. Like you said, it gives that energy. And I'll do open ocean swims, but I haven't lately. I had some things going on, but I discovered this place, little park space. It's actually at a school in my neighborhood. So now what I'm doing a little warm up, then I jog over to the park with my TRX band. I'll do 5 rounds. It's neat because it's under a big canopy. I'm right in like Diamond Head, Kamiki, but nice. I can see the city from there, and I've got shade and it's quiet. So I got this nice green workout space with good views, and then I jog home, and then I'm ready to hit the ground running. The rest of my day is great.
Yeah. Well, it makes a big difference. I just let everybody know that there's 3 things you should be doing. 1 is physical exercise, 2 is doing something creative, and 3 is some kind of quiet time or meditation, whatever form you want to do that in. But yeah, huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into things today.
All righty. Let's jump right in. Starting with our market meteorologist, all the latest news affecting the economy and the real estate market in the state of Hawaii. What's going on, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, the first one we have is the insurance. There was a title, an article that came out, Insurance Crisis Worsens in Hawaii's Condoland. And so just to give a quick background, or as much of a background as possible, effectively what's going on is condominiums fall into a little higher risk insurance component for insurers. There's two components to condominiums insurance. There's the hurricane coverage insurance, which is a separate policy. And then you have your general condo master policy, all of which are paid for in somebody's maintenance fees. They're included in your maintenance fees. But what's gone on is the reinsurers market has lost over $1 billion worldwide from catastrophes that have happened over the last few years. And in doing so, they're affecting condominium insurance around the country, around the globe, and in particular in Hawaii's condo market. And so what's happened is premiums have gone from, say, $25,000 for hurricane insurance for some to $125,000.
Wow.
Which is an extreme increase, which obviously means that gets passed down to the unit owner via either an assessment or by raising the maintenance fees. And in doing so, what's come down, this has affected over 400 buildings in the state of Hawaii from an insurance standpoint. So there's a couple of things to understand with this, that association board members, what they're looking at is, okay, do we have 100% coverage for our building and pay, let's just say, for example, $125,000 premium for this year? And if so, then they're probably looking at a maintenance fee increase or an assessment. And if they don't, the other choice that they've been making is to say, you know what, if a hurricane comes by and it blows out we have a hurricane, it blows out the windows, it destroys the cosmetic interior improvements, but the structure of the building is still there. So some association boards have actually not gone with 100% coverage. They've gone with less than 100%. And in doing so, that has a problem. It affects financing, because one of the stipulations for being able to get traditional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conventional financing is to have a certain level of coverage, which is 100%. And in doing so, you now eliminate those loan programs. And for some buildings, you now can't get financing on when purchasing a home or doing refinances on loans. There are portfolio options for some buildings depending on how their insurance is covered, but it's impacting the condo market. And it's a problem not just because it's affecting so many units and so many buildings, but it's also, condos are an affordable way of getting into home ownership. That's typically the first step for people to get into home ownership, is into a condo. And in doing so, we're now significantly hurting the ability for people to get into home ownership. So this is an issue, and it's a problem right now.
Yeah, I was just going to add that obviously what we've been dealing with is some higher interest rates over the last several years, as well as prices rising and inventory being low. So this insurance adds another layer of
It does, and I think it's a bigger impact than rising interest rates, because as interest rates go up, you as a buyer, you still qualify for a loan. It just may not be the same loan amount. It might be less, but it's different than, hey, that building is non-financeable. You can't buy a unit in there unless you're bringing cash. So it does present a significant issue, and the state has acknowledged it and recognized it. And the consumer needs to be aware that when you're going to buy a condo, this is something that's out there. You need to understand it and educate yourself, or work with a good realtor that understands it, and walk through that process and have a game plan for, are my maintenance fees going to go up next year by a decent amount because of this? Now, the reinsurance market is starting to level out, but that doesn't mean the insurance rate premiums are coming down. It just means they're leveling out. And so we hopefully don't see any more increases, but that's not the end of it. There needs to be a solution for that.
Okay. Oh, and so give us a solution.
so,
I mean,
so I think there's going to be, going forward, there's going to be a couple of different things that come out. One, I've sat on boards for over a decade, and so I've seen the push and pull between don't raise my maintenance fees and invest the money to fix it the right way. So I think, one, associations are going to have to start looking at how they treat maintenance in a building a different way. So if you want to put band-aids on things, you want to put chewing gum on stuff as the fix, if you keep having claims that you are constantly having to make on your insurance, then you're obviously in a higher risk component, and your premiums are going to be higher, or the insurance company dropped you altogether. So I think one component is the fact that building boards and associations are going to have to start treating the maintenance of the building differently to reduce their risk capacity to the insurance company, to help keep premiums lower and to make sure you're insured. Two, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, if there's the 100% coverage component that they're going to have to debate, but that impacts values of the property, because if you can't get standard financing or you can't get financing, you're now impacting the value of the building. And so, three, is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac going to adjust their guidelines on whether or not they require 100% coverage? And then the fourth, which is what I think is going to end up happening, is the state will step in, at least temporarily, probably to initiate the hurricane fund or tap into the hurricane fund that we've always had, to provide a stopgap insurance that is a little more affordable than, say, having to go to Lloyd's of London or something, to help bridge the gap to get us through to a more permanent solution.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, and like say, it's an ongoing issue. It's been recognized more recently as something we're going to be dealing with for a while. And
so there's two important things. People always look at this as, it's very, very bad news. Yeah, it's not great news, but guess what? There's opportunities in that, right? Buy on bad news, sell on good news. If you want a dip, say, in buying in the condo market, this is a proponent that provides, you're going to have less competition, which means you're going to have softer prices. Even though prices are up right now, number of sales are down 25% this year on condo sales on Oahu compared to last year. So there is an opportunity. It comes with risk. You have to understand that risk component, right? And you have to be financially secure if you're going to go into that. But the other component is, if you're going into the condo side, make sure you're informed and educated. Work with someone that can help guide you through that process.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, and again, it's there's a lot to be determined, so to speak, for that issue. But Scott, you mentioned that you wanted to put some links in the show where people could go and find articles about that particular issue.
Yep, we'll put some down below so you can read more on it.
Okay. All right, well, that's good. And again, it's an ongoing thing. How about we move on to the next slide here? The breaking news is the U.S. inflation cooled more than expected in June. So that's some good news, finally, on the inflation front, which affects all of the economy.
Yeah, the Fed's target is to, this coincides actually with the next slide. So U.S. inflation is cooling more than expected in June. The Fed is waiting for, or is trying to get inflation down to a 2% target. And in doing so, mortgage rates are correlated to inflation. So as inflation comes down, mortgage interest rates will come down. And we just saw mortgage rates retreating from 7% on massive revision to jobs reports. So we've got more and more positive news of the economy, cooling off some from its overheated standpoint. And in fact, I just got an email this morning and yesterday that said mortgage interest rates have now hit a 6-month low. So as they start to come down, that provides affordability options for buyers, but understand if for each individual borrower that it impacts and makes housing more affordable, it makes it more affordable for everyone else. So we're going to have a movement of buyers into the market. I do anticipate prices to go up.
Right.
But the good news is rates appear, we're towards the end. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It appears for the getting inflation under control and getting it back down to having it come down to numbers where the Fed wants it, which is going to bring those interest rates down.
Right. Well, and that's good news, because there's so many things affecting the market right now, right? And the small increments will help. And obviously, we still have the issue of lower inventory. The interest rates are coming down. Like you said, the 6-month low, but there's still. I don't want to. I want to say it's a negative, because, like as you said, there's opportunity sometimes in the negative area, which is what people should be following. So,
yes,
well, that's good news.
What do you see is happening then as rates come down? Do you think people will get a more affordable mortgage interest rate? I mean, not mortgage interest rate, but more affordable monthly payment.
Well, and that's the thing, is that prices, because the market softens a little bit, you end up with more buyers, right? People who have maybe slightly priced out or decided to wait. So you got more buyers. That means you may have more competition, and that means prices will not probably come down. They may be slightly higher. So
yeah, most people there's a common theme that I hear a lot of times. I want to wait till interest rates come down to buy. And the idea is that my monthly mortgage payment will be more affordable at that time. It will be less than what it is in today's, let's say at 8%, when they were at 8%. But the fallacy to that is we're in an inflationary period, right? Where your groceries cost more. Everything's kind of costing more. The apples you buy at the grocery store cost more. When interest rates go down, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a cheaper monthly payment by waiting to buy then. The reality is yes, it's going to be more affordable because of the interest rate, but it's more affordable for more people. So we get more buyers moving into the market. We saw this in April when rates went down to 6.75% from 8%, and we had a 25% increase in the number of sales and a 10% increase in price. And the reality is you're probably going to pay more for the home, have a lower mortgage payment, but still have the same, have a lower mortgage interest rate, but still have the same mortgage payment. All you did was really pay more for the home at that point. So you got to be careful with waiting for interest rates to come down. The concept may be actually better buy when the rates are higher, when you got less competition. As rates come down, more buyers move in and the price goes up, you refinance to lower that monthly payment.
Right. And that's where being represented by a good buyer's agent realtor, right, is a benefit. We can't measure. It's just great. Somebody that knows and can pick up the phone and say, hey, here's the deal. And, you can wait all you want, but now might be a good time, and give them advice, and they can make a more informed decision on whether to go forward. Right.
You always want to put that strategy together based on, what are your needs? What are you doing? What are your goals? What's the market dynamic? All right, let's set up the plan based on all that. So that you're protecting you from costly mistakes and helping you financially get to where you want to go.
Right. And then down the road, there's always refinance, right? Because people say, oh, if I buy now, gosh, I have such a high payment. But if you can do the payment, the trend is probably going to be that interest rates will come down more. We got too used to but over time. But then the idea that you could refinance later on to have a lower payment.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Mortgage Bankers Association predicted by the end of fourth quarter next year, rates would be at 6% or just below. That's a significant movement at that point.
It is. Okay, so let's jump next to a topic going on out on the north shore of Oahu, which is a great surfing mecca and in the world, not just here in Hawaii. And that is an actual issue of, get the slide up here. There are erosion negotiation going on between state and owners of property out on the North Shore. What's going on there, Scott?
Yeah, so if
Big,
you're not familiar with it, I mean, obviously sea level rise,
hey,
bigger
this,
storms, etc.
hey, the surfers aren't happy on the North Shore for no reason. I mean, the waves are big, right? So, but if you're on the shore, then yes, there is an erosion issue.
Yeah, and we've had in the past probably 5 years, we've had certain spots have had significant erosion almost immediately from some heavy storms, etc. And in doing so, some of the homeowners have either lost their homes or lost a significant portion of the lot where it's going to start impacting the home. And there's been a battle between the state and those owners about how to handle that at this point going forward. And so there were fines. People were doing illegal activity. The state wanted some kind of permitting process, but there wasn't really a solution to what was going on, because if you did something in front of your home, it still impacts your neighbors' homes adversely, etc. And so they've at least come to an agreement that they will discuss this, have a third party more or less analyze how we can come to a solution between the homeowners and the state. And so we'll see how that goes. I do have a really good video and article on what to know about owning beachfront and oceanfront homes, and I'll put that in the link down below as well, so you can check that out, because it shows, I do show a little bit of that area where there's in the video where there's been issues with erosion, so you can kind of get a good sense of what it is.
Okay, yeah. So you'll put a link to your YouTube channel, right, with the video on that. Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
put the link to the video
Yeah.
in the description below.
Yeah. So keep an eye on the show notes, everybody, down below. I think. Well, I know some folks tried to move their homes back on their property, depending on the kind of home it was. It was post and pier or whatever. But regardless, that's an arduous process, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
don't.
well, the current setback line is 40 feet from the mean high water mark or
Right.
vegetation line. That is getting ready to move, I think it's next month, to 60 feet. Plus, there's an erosion rate formula that they will start to factor in for how much further past 60 feet you have to go to be able to build. So the state is understanding that the coastal areas are being impacted, and they're starting to take steps. And those steps are there to protect our reefs, protect our oceanfront areas, and in particular our coral reefs.
Yeah, well, and we hear that all throughout the state, not just on Oahu. I think the North Shore is a great example.
Yeah.
But I mean, even on this side in areas of Puako and stuff, people talk about rising tides and where that high water mark's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Yeah, so yeah, it's a statewide issue for sure.
Yeah.
With more
I remember in Puako at the beach house, because that house is grandfathered in for its closeness, and the big waves, when they would come, they would take the basically the white dead coral that it has become rock. It would throw it up onto the roof over the rock wall, and it smashed down on the metal roof, and you'd think someone was coming through the roof. It was pretty nuts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what high surf brings, right? So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, again, another thing, good one for us to follow. So, let's move on. Wait, what is this? Movie on the Beach is back.
Yeah. I'm excited for this. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Mayor Jeremy Harris brought this. So there's a movie screen down on Kalakaua Avenue, and the screen is not up, but the framing for it is, and it's been there for years since they did this. I don't know, maybe a decade ago. But in the sand on the beach, right down in Waikiki, they have a frame for movie screen, and they used to have movies down there. They used to do the premieres for like Hawaii 5-0 every year would be down there, and they would show it. And so they're fine. And always wonder, I'm like, hey, you got this structure here. I wish they would bring it back. I think it's great for tourists. I think it's great for locals. I used to walk down the street from where I live to go and check it out. They're bringing it back. They're going to do it once a month. It's actually sponsored by Southwest Airlines, and they're going to have food vendors, and you can bring your own food and drink down if you want. No alcohol, because it's supposed to be family oriented. Plus, you're on the beach, so
Yeah.
no open containers. But I think this is something great that they're going to be bringing back, and I'm looking forward to checking it out when it does come. It'd be great for tourists right at the end of Kalakaua, right before you get into
Okay.
Kapolei Park.
Shoots, I might have to fly over there. It's just like the drive-in movie, except you don't go in your car, right?
Correct. You walk
Yeah,
up.
I actually went to a drive-in movie a number of years ago in a taxi cab. Movie cost me $95. Just kidding. That's a joke I stole from somebody, but anyways, no, I mean, there's this thing at Mauna Lani called Talk Story, which is not a movie, but it happens right down by the between the Mauna Lani at Makaiva Bay, and it's been popular for years. People bring their picnics and everything. Obviously, not as many people as there are around Kalakaua Avenue, but a great historical event on our island, and it still happens at full moon time. So
Yeah, that's an awesome one.
yeah. All right, we are going to jump next to the trending tides in real estate, the latest market update for real estate, and what's going on
On Oahu. Yeah, so it's actually been interesting. Um, rates are starting to come down. Price Prices were up 6.7% this past month for single family homes, and the median price is 1.12 million for on Oahu for a single family home. And we only have our inventory is 653 homes right now. For perspective, in 2006, 2007, during that boom time, the lowest number of homes available was 814. So we're below that period, which had 25% price appreciation, by the way. And then even in 2019, we had 1,641 homes actively available. So our inventory is tight, and as rates come down, what we've been talking about is increase in demand. Prices are up 6.7%, sales are up, and for a mid-year snapshot, prices are up 3.3%, sales are up 6.7%. So it's a moderate market. We're going to have a little bit of strength and increase, and we're going to move as interest rates move, and interest rates appear on the way down, so prices will start to inch up. On the condo side, though, we're off 24.5% number of sales because of that insurance issue, but prices are still up 3.9%.
Yeah, well, people are gun shy. Well, but if you look at the national news, there's no question people are talking about, the quote American dream of owning a home, and how like in many places, not just here in Hawaii, but the entrance price for a home is $1 million. And so again, playing devil's advocate a little bit here, there's a lot of people stepping back and going, wow, because just real quick, I used to live in Japan, and I might have told this story before, but when I lived in Japan 36 years ago, I was there for 4 years. There's a lot of people that never even thought about buying a home because, small amount of land in Japan. But, it was like, oh, we'll travel, we'll have an apartment, we'll rent. That was what they thought of for lifestyle. But at least to put that out there in our conversation, that, that is certainly not front and center, but certainly close to front and center in the news nationally is.
Yep. And interest rates have done that, and lack of inventory, right? Because lack of inventory has kept prices where they are, and interest rates went up. So it's exponentially more costly for people. The interesting thing, and this is going to take us off on a little bit of side tangent, but
that's okay. We'll do a sidebar.
One of the interesting things to me, and I've thought a lot about this because I do development, I do investments, and I do the sales side. The concept of a single family home has changed, or owning a home, how you go about owning a home has changed. And I'll give you a couple of layers of that. When the single family home concept was created, those master plan communities, so to
Right.
speak,
Right.
was right after World War II. There's a great New York Times podcast about that time period, and when people were coming back from the war, they were just building homes all over the place, and they were affordable, they can get into. Well, the interesting thing is if you think about it, over time we were clear cutting forests, we were destroying ecosystems. There was no thought about the impact of what we were doing. Now you get to the point of not in my backyard, to get the NIMBY mentality. That's going to impact the ability of supply. You also, back here in the 60s and 70s, we were building single wall construction homes. One board is your interior and exterior wall, and you had no hurricane clips, and you were posting pier. Well, you can't build that now. So you have significantly changed building codes that increase the cost of a house, of building a house. In fact, even just the concept, you look at the older homes, you had to have one electrical outlet per wall. Well, now you have to have them every 6 feet, and in your kitchen, you need them every 2 feet. And the reason for that is because a lamp cord is standard 6 feet. So that allows, or a fan cord. So it allows you to plug in that item anywhere on the wall and put it in the room. But that increases the cost. And then you have government restrictions on how long it takes to get permitting and things such as that. So there are a lot of other impacts that have come into play that have caused housing to cost a lot more now. And in doing so, the concept of home ownership has changed. You don't go directly into the single family home. You're going to go condo, and then maybe a nicer condo, step up to the townhouse, step up to the single family home eventually. But it's not realistic in many city markets, because of we're living in such high dense places, to be able to go into the single family home right out of the gate.
Right. And those are the places where there obviously are more jobs. Now, one thing that's changed in the working environment is that more people can work remotely. They may actually be able to choose their location, which happened a lot during the pandemic, right? A lot of people did the geographics, but there's no question that the cost of building has gone up as well. So
some of it is our impact. The not in my backyard mentality has put significant restrictions. I mean, we have it here. Not only there was the development of Manoa, and there was big pushback, but even the concept of keep the country country. I totally agree with it. You got to have some structure and plan in place, because what you had here on Oahu in the 60s and 70s was pretty much a free-for-all, because Hawaii became a state in 1959. So we had an influx of capital and a boom period in the 60s and 70s, and we were creating 14,000 new units per year. Then in the 80s, after some buildings were built with a 2-bedroom condo with no parking in Waikiki, which makes zero sense because it's so dense, right? You need to provide the parking. So the county said, hold on a second, we got to get a better plan and structure here, or we're going to have mass chaos on the island. So they swung the pendulum the opposite direction, to where we're at like 2,500 new units per year. And what we've had now is a 4-decade deficit of building enough to keep housing affordable here, and we have a different issue. And so you have to have some kind of balance in there, a give and take balance. But the keep the country component is hey, that's not in my backyard.
And if you compare your island, Oahu, to the island I live on, the Big Island, that's certainly the case. Big Island of Hawaii, I mean, you've got Hilo on the east side, Kona on the west side, and boy, it's country and old plantation villages in between, really. And a lot of people want it to stay that way. Yep. And yet we do have housing issues here on the Big Island as well. Okay, so let's spin a little bit from that. All right. As realtors, we have many stories over the years. We could spend hours, and maybe sometime we will, telling the different stories about clients, lenders, other realtors, etc., etc. We are going to jump into a little segment now, which we call Coconut Joe. Stories from the trenches of interesting things realtors do The good, the bad, well, and I'm going to say it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the inspiring, or the Oops Chronicles, behind the blunders. Scott, you have a good one you wanted to share with us today for our Coconut Joe segment.
Yeah, I came across, I'm actually seeing a lot more of this right now, and it's concerning, but I came across one where a realtor from Kauai got a listing at Turtle Bay on the North Shore here on Oahu. And we're talking about two different islands now. And I'm always of the belief that you stay in your lane. I know Oahu very well, but I have to put in a tremendous amount of work to stay up on the market, keep my finger on the pulse of the market here on Oahu. And I would even argue, when I lived on the Big Island, I lived on the west side, I would sell on the west side. There was no way I was going to sell on the east side. I don't know that market. So anyway, this realtor took a listing at Turtle Bay on the North Shore of Oahu here, of like over $2 million listing, but didn't have access to the Oahu MLS, and put it in the Kauai MLS and took that listing. And the problem is if you go to do a search for that listing, it does not show up on the Oahu MLS, which is where everybody's going to be searching.
Because that's where the house is. That's where the property is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not going to go to the Kauai MLS to search for a property on Oahu. Doesn't make sense. So,
yet, if I can interject, I mean, realtors have the ability to join any and all of the MLS if they want
we're licensed across the state. We can technically sell across the state.
Right. So the thing would be, if you're going to take a listing like that, would obviously be have access. Because I'm going to ask the question, but I know the answer. Who is it a disservice to?
Yeah, so that's
the seller, but all the consumers too who are looking for properties.
And that's where it's really interesting, because we actually have a separate MLS per island, right? And so Oahu has its own MLS, Kauai has its own MLS, and in order for me, if I were to sell a property in Kauai, I would realistically need to join the Kauai MLS, pay my dues so that I could upload that property there. Well, this agent didn't even do that. They just uploaded on the Kauai MLS, and the seller's not even going to realize the problem there, because they will show them, hey, here's the link. Your property's live. It's on the market. It's showing on the internet, but it's not showing where it should be. And so the concern, the scariness of that is, first of all, I argue, if you're a consumer and you're hiring someone, I recommend people hire someone that lives and works in that area, specific area. And I don't mean just Oahu. I mean, hire a North Shore agent for that property on Oahu who knows the intimate details of what's going on and what's changing and what's going on with that association. Is there a sewer project coming up? What are the impacts from the community, et cetera, et cetera? They have their finger on the pulse of that thing. They're going to know things you as the consumer are not going to know. Somebody on another island has no idea who the relationship players with the realtors are in the market, who the home inspectors are. What happens when somebody goes to show the property and they either leave the door unlocked, they lose the key, or they leave the lights on, or they leave a door open and the AC running? How does that person ever even know about it, and how does that get corrected, right?
Yeah.
And so
it's surprising. I will say this again. I'm going to compare it to our island here. There is a lot more agents who will work further out from their main areas, only because there's low inventory. So if somebody comes, say somebody on the east side knows somebody who lives in the area I live, Waikoloa, they know somebody and they say, hey, I want to list my house in Waikoloa, and they're talking to a Hilo agent on the east side. Well, that happens. You see it more often, but our MLS is still one MLS. Although distance-wise, size-wise, it might as well be two different islands. I agree. I mean, there is an area of expertise, and if you want to jump into one of the markets here, then you can, but you ought to be ready to really do your research so that you are an akamai agent and you can, help that seller and or buyer as much as possible.
Yeah. So part of the moral of this story to me is when you interview your agents, you should be hiring. I highly recommend you hire the person that's, for one, on the island that the property is on, two, is in the area that the property is on, three, the agent specializes in the type of property you're looking at selling. They have the knowledge, the experience, the expertise, the connections, the track record, etc., in that area, because those people are going to get you the most amount of money and the highest net. This person that did this on another island and listed it here just caused that seller a significant amount of money because there are hardly any buyers that realize that property is on the market at that point.
Got it. Yeah. So
that's a big step.
Oh, no question. So the concept of Coconut Joe, would that be the guy that walks under the tree and the coconut falls and hits him in the head and he kind of loses his bearings, so to speak?
Could be.
But you used the word when we chatted beforehand that, some of these agents, they're getting desperate. And that's just, low inventory doesn't just hurt buyers. I mean, there's agents who, obviously, when there's less to sell, there's going to be less agents selling things.
I saw three agents in the last 3 days taking listings on outer islands from here on Oahu. And so to me, here's my other thought. This is a value thing for me. I don't go out of my expertise because I have a fiduciary responsibility to that client. And I need to be able to get the best for that client. If I'm going into another area because I'm desperate, that's about me. And I'm chasing money at that point. That's right. A bad mix. And that's a red flag to me as a consumer. Be careful of hiring that type of person.
Right. And there's an old saying,
for your best interest or their own.
Yeah, the old saying is, do not chase money. Money should chase you. And if you have the expertise, everything else, then it will. Exactly. You keep doing what you do. And all right, let's jump to our next segment. Cash Flow Chronicles. We'll answer your questions about the ins and outs of Hawaii real estate investing. That is the segment. Let's jump here first to the first question. Are there different types of short-term rentals on Oahu or specific rental rules I should be aware of? I am seeing different info and I'm not sure which is right. That comes from John from San Diego.
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions here actually. So are there different types of short-term rentals on Oahu? Yes. There are condotels and then there are short-term vacation rentals. Condotels are effectively condominium hotel units. They're hotel units that are condominiums that you can buy and put into a hotel rental pool. The Trump Tower, which changed its name, the Ritz Residences is an example. Aloha Hotel is another example. You buy the hotel unit and they could be either just a regular hotel room style, or they can be a full condo unit, 1-2 bedroom unit. And so that's a condotel. And then there's also just regular short-term rental unit, which is going to be more like a regular condo that you can rent out on a short-term basis.
Right. And a condotel basically happens when X number of units, right? It's almost like more units are being rented out as opposed to occupied by homeowners. I mean, maybe you can expand on that. But
they'll have a check-in desk downstairs. They'll provide maid service.
Right.
It's literally like, I mean, the best example I think of is the Ritz Residences, right? That's a Ritz Carlton. They are running it. You put it into the Ritz resident or the Ritz rental pool. They run it for you. You can block off time, come use it. That's to me kind of the best visual understanding of it.
Right. So would you say of short-term rentals, those would be the two major ones? Again, addressing John from San Diego's question.
Yeah, on Oahu. Then from a rental rules standpoint, I mean, there's more or less 3 main zones on Oahu. There's Waikiki, which is going to have most of it, and it's basically your resort zoned areas. So part of Waikiki, part of Ko'olina, part of the North Shore, and then there's a few that have been grandfathered in that are not resort zoned. They're actually apartment zoned. And then there's some units that actually back in the 80s were allowed to do short-term vacation rentals when they changed the rules originally, and they were grandfathered in, and you have to renew the certificate every year. There's a few
Right.
of those around the island that are still existing. But
Okay.
that's pretty much it on.
All right. Well, I hope that helped, John from San Diego. Let's jump to the next question here. Did I skip one?
Nope.
No. When buying an investment property with short-term rental possibilities, is it the same type of loan that I get when I purchase my home? Question mark, similar rate. Juliana from Kailua. That's a good question.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not the same loan. You are not getting a conventional financing loan. So when people say same loan as when I purchased my home, most people are doing
Owner occupied.
yeah, owner occupied, and their
Right.
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac um, guideline loans, which are your best rates, best terms. Um, these are not. They are purely investment, and they're higher risk, like a condotel where you might not have the full kitchen and you definitely can't occupy it. And even condotels, some of them, there's certain restrictions for how much the owner can stay there. It is intended for renters. I mean, for tourists and tourism. I've seen some where they have a restriction of use of 14 days by the owner in a year. So those are higher risk components. If you're going to walk away from a loan or a property when you get into trouble, it's not going to be the home that you live in, it's going to be the investment, and this is one that you can't just rent out long term. So the 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 guidelines are more restrictive, the down payments higher, and the interest rate is higher, and you're typically doing a portfolio loan with the bank.
Right. Right. So you need to be in a pretty good financial situation.
the,
Yeah.
the other interesting thing, condotels, um, and the guidelines change all the time. And so for condotels, they say, oh, well, you have to have a kitchen. And so then I have to ask the question, well, what's the definition of kitchen to the lender? And it changes. And it could be full size fridge. At one point there was, oh, it had to be a hot plate. Then other times it was, no, it had to be a full size range. Oh, no, it had to be an 18-inch range. Oh, you had to have a heating element. Then you had to ask what's the definition of a heating element. And so the guidelines change depending on the time in the market.
The time in the market. Yeah. What's popular? Well, I know for me, I don't need much more than a Keurig coffee machine and a hot plate. But anyways, all right, let's jump to the next question. I'm looking at buying a vacation rental, rent it out, and block some time to use it. Are there specific things I should be aware of? Additional fees and costs I should know about? That's Jeff from Seattle.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it did. So, are there things you should know about? I mean, I always tell people in general, whenever you're going to personally use an investment that you're planning on renting out, the more personal time you use it, the less the return you're going to get, right? Because you're going to eat into the investment time. So understand the other thing. I get a lot of people that say, "Hey, I want to buy a vacation rental. I want to put 10% down. I want it to make money, and I want to block off time for me to use it." Well, that's not realistic. That's not how it works here. It's actually our cap rates on these are they can be through. They can actually be at 0 to 5%.
Right.
It typically takes the ones I'm running right now, running analysis on, are about 35 to 50% down to break even. So it does take a good amount of money to put down to break even on these. Um, so that's one component to understand, is it does take a good amount down, and the more you use it, the more you're going to eat into the return side. The other component is there are taxes. There's general excise tax and transient accommodation tax that go into needing to be collected for short-term rentals. Other than that, the question comes down is, do you put it into the hotel rental pool? Do you hire a separate property manager to run it, or do you run it yourself? But you're supposed to be on island if you're running it yourself. Obviously, the more equity you put into something, because you are running a business when you're turning things over real quick, the better the return's going to be. The more you lay it off to someone else to take care of it, the more they're going to eat into your profits.
Right. And it, of course, property specific too. Every property. That's why, again, an agent who knows a certain condo or certain condos in Waikiki, they would have a better idea of, you know, what you need to do to get that return on your investment. Whereas it could be someplace out on the North Shore that's a beachfront rental. I mean, the variation of properties, you know, is also, you know, quite broad, if you will. Yeah. So
What did you see in, say, Monolani or areas on the Big Island?
I'm sorry.
Areas on the Big Island, do you see, is that pretty much the same for you on the Big Island?
Oh, oh yeah. I mean, it really it depends, and obviously prices. For, you know, doesn't matter if it's a vacation renter or a hotel or whatever. You know, prices are going up, but it's also seasonal here. You know, we are not our slow season on the Big Island. I'm sure it's probably the same on Oahu too. It just isn't as slow as it used to be. People realize that it pretty much any time of the year is a good time to come to Hawaii. A lot of people come here to escape the winters, which, you know, still makes mid-December till the end of April, May a very popular time here. But you used to be able to drop a pin and no one would hear it in September, May, those months. Not so much anymore. But I will say at the same time, it still is, you know, seasonal as part of it. Yeah. The
Yeah,
same thing though. Yeah.
we're less seasonal over here. I'll never forget when I was living on the Big Island. Actually, I came over here and I went to Duke's down in Waikiki, and I asked the bartender there, "Hey, you guys have a slow season?" And he just laughed at me. He's like, "Nope."
How long? And then your next question was, how long does it take for me to get a drink? Yeah. Okay.
I gotten it already.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on here. All right. We'll see what's now. It's time for the extraordinary property of the week, which it's one of our favorite segments. It's also our listeners' favorite segment, or one of them, because people get to see, as you like to call it, Scott, the art of real estate. So I'm going to let you take it away and go through this extraordinary property. I'm sorry, I said of the week, but of the day. Take it away.
Yeah, so I picked one out that's right on this is the backside of Diamond Head. So if you
So
go,
the airport is on the other side of
airport, Waikiki, Honolulu is right on the other side. If you go right around that corner, you hit Diamond Head's Gold Coast, which is just stunning. 16 condo buildings right on the ocean, and then you get right into Waikiki. So you're close to everything. You have access to everything. You're tucked away in this quiet little area, and you can see the beach that runs along that area. To the left hand side of the screen is Diamond Head Surf Break, and to the right, probably the right hand side of the screen, is Jim Neighbor's old house, Gomer Pyle. If you remember Gomer Pyle, he owned a home an estate home down there. He passed away a couple of years ago, and that home was sold, and they've now since rebuilt on. He had an estate style property, and also the Doris Duke estate, who was the wealthiest woman in the world at one point, is also just off the screen to the right here. So you have a beautiful area, quiet. You are beachfront, good location, and this is what the home looks like. It's 5 bedroom, 5 full baths, 2 half baths, 3 car garage, 5,500 square feet and change on a almost 15,000 square foot lot on the ocean, sandy beachfront. You can see the stairs in the lower right corner that you have access down to, listed at 19.8 million. It's a beautiful home, more your traditional Hawaii style, but I love how they terraced this here.
That is nice. Yeah. Talk about well done.
Stunning. I also think there was a reason they did it, and I have a feeling it's for the flood zone and flood insurance where they raised the grade up. That's my gut. I don't know that for sure totally.
Okay.
That would have made sense. But this is the interior, so you do have the sliders that tuck back, and so you do have that kind of cantilever area that's carrying load out there. So some beautiful architecture here. You see the coffered ceilings with the warm woods. You have the stone on the floor. But
You also have the stone columns,
Yeah.
that's epic. That's nice.
And you got a perfectly framed in view of the ocean there. High ceilings, very open, connected to the outdoors, which is what we love here in Hawaii. It's partly why you're here, is for that fresh air and to bring the interior to the or exterior to the interior and vice versa. This is
Nice.
the kitchen. I actually love how they have a wood portion countertop here where the seating is, and then they have a stone countertop portion where the sink and the cooking element components are, which is really nice.
Nice.
Then you have bath. This is one of the bedrooms. Stunning view out to the outside. Again, you bring in a lot of the wood accents into here. And then this is one of the. I'm going to move us over here. This is one of the bathrooms. I mean, that's a huge frameless glass shower. They use the clips on that. Then you have it's just large and spacious, stunning piece.
Yeah, some of those showers you could play a pickup game of half court basketball in. They're so big, right? I mean, but again, I love that look, wide open.
Yeah, and the frameless is the way to go. They have the two clip system on the bottom instead of a rail, and then they have the mounting clips on the side, the hinges.
Yeah,
so you have very little on the frame, all glass, which is what most people like. And then this is the entryway from on the driveway into the garage. You got a 3-car garage. Again, you bring the wood accents in. Those are copper gutters. A lot of the elements that you see from here in Hawaii, even the driveway, I love that style of driveway. It's not just a standard concrete. They stamped it, they broke it up, grew the grass in between it, and then you have some of your tropical plants that they brought in as well.
Yeah, you see more and more driveways like this, with whether it's poured concrete and it makes it look really natural, or however, in the grass in between it, it's just so much more inviting than a straight on driveway. Yeah, so yeah, this is a very stunning property, which I just make a quick comment that, when somebody lists a property, I think we need to get out some new adjectives for realtors, because they list a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Waikoloa. It's 1,500 square feet, no ocean view, and they say, stunner in Waikoloa, or stunning property. I think, anyways, that's just realtors, but this one definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, and this, to me, I mean, I build with the board and batten. That's what this siding is, board and batten. It looks like they got it. It looks like a wood shake roof, um, but they brought in. They use high quality materials, and it looks really nice. And it looks more like your Hawaii style than some of the stucco that you might see in California and some other areas.
Yeah.
And this is the location. That's your backyard. Then you can see the beach that you have access to. The stairs are just to the left where you can get down.
Do you remember the movie Arthur? Right near the Arthur, with Dudley Moore years ago, and Liza Minnelli, and she asks him near the end of the movie, where they thought they were going to walk away from all his money, right? And she looks at him and says, "What is it like to have $780 million?" And he looks at her and goes, "It doesn't suck." And I would say this about that. I mean, that is unbelievable. I mean, it is such a gorgeous. I mean, that's what you come here for. So, also, let me make one more point. Everybody that's watching, listening, that beach is everybody's, right? I mean, just so people know, there are going to be people walking in front of your house, right? Because that's one thing you cannot buy here is the beachfront. You have it, and obviously the stairs with the access down to it. But one of the great things about this state is that ocean area is accessible to everybody. Obviously, they cannot come through your yard to get to it. But anyways, thought I'd mention that.
The public access right-of-ways, all beaches are state-owned land, and they're for the use of the people here in the state, and they're public access right-of-ways. I'll put the link below about beachfront and oceanfront homes. I talk about that component in there, but I also put a link to more information on this property. You can check it out, peek at it if you want, and have a look.
Yeah, that's a great property for the day, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so we'll finish up with our closing thoughts. This is where we come to the end of the show, but we're going to finish up with our last components, just kind of something that we think about, want to share every time at the end of the show. So mine would be, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I love that. I think it was Henry Ford that had that quote, but it's so true. I mean, a mindset is one of the biggest components on whatever you're doing. And if you think you can do it, you can.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
don't,
And
here's roadblock.
yeah. And you got, I think my swimming example is the perfect thing. I mean, I really thought all those years, I can learn how to swim. I can learn. I didn't realize what the difficulty was, but I got past that. It's not so much that before I started this last time and finally got to the point where I could swim better, that I thought, oh, I think that I can, but I knew that I was certainly going to try. So it's true. Yeah. I mean, it goes to the negative thinking and positive thinking.
Yep.
So,
And yours, Guy?
oh, yeah. I like this one. Education is not to teach you what to think, but to teach you how to think. I think that's important. Education doesn't end with school. It's how you live your life and always learning something. And you like to test your boundaries and your comfort zones. And I think we should all continue to do that, and to, so that we learn, how to think and be able to discuss those things with people. And in a world where, there is some division, one side thinks one thing and the other side thinks the other. And there's nothing that's going to break down that wall. So that's my thought for the day.
Oh, good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, Guy. I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for checking in, everybody. And you can check the links below for more information. Check out Guy's podcast at the Papa Guy Podcast. And any last parting words?
No, just great to be with you. Hopefully we'll be back soon, and I know we'll be back soon with some more questions, thoughts, properties, ideas.
Any questions you have, put them in there's a link below that you can fill out, submit your question. We'll be happy to answer them on here. We appreciate everybody else that's been publishing those already.
Yeah, and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you.
Aloha, Scott.